This is actually an old video that I found that I thought we actually lost. So I'm really happy that we found it because it was a really fun build to do. This was from the Alienation movie. This is how we made the mask. We're starting out by using art clay, and we were actually going to beef up the head because the head is a little bit smaller than our heads. So to make it fit, we're beefing it up and then going to be sculpting on top of that. Remember, whenever you are done with this type of clay, to put wet paper towels on top of your sculpt and seal it with a big plastic bag and tie the plastic bag as tight as you can. This is something that we didn't do. We completely forgot about this step and we kept wondering why it kept cracking. We had to fix this sculpt multiple times, and honestly, it could have been a lot worse, and I'm lucky that we actually got out through this project successfully. It was a dumb move on our part, and we want to make sure that you guys don't do the same mistake. Now that the head is fully covered, you can start to sculpt the alien details, whatever your desire. We're doing something specific because we had drawn concepts for a film. We're using pictures from Pinterest and other online sources to get a reference of what we're trying to go for. We actually started to pack on the eyes a little more to make the face come down flatter, to give it more of an oblong shape rather than human structure with eye sockets and such. Using a sharp tool, we drew out rough areas where the eyes will go. We're actually using one side of a plastic Easter egg, and we're going to be using this for the eyes. We're going to be cutting them down because these are obviously way too big. More detail on the side of the ear being packed on. We're finalizing the major details right here before moving on to the brow. We added details like the spine on the top of the head and the brows, as well as smoothing out all the other bumps and cracks. Just know this, you might want to make the spine bigger if you want it to show even more, as well as the eyes, because latex will make it shrink in the long run. But these are just all simple applications of clay and using the spatula to mold and bend it into whatever shape you want. Now to move on to the lenses, what you're going to want to do is trace out that brow area, that's that circle I have, as well as the shape of the egg you're using. This oval fits inside of the brow as well as this plastic egg. And I created it just by holding a piece of paper up to the brow and getting that size in correctly. This is the shape I wanted. I wanted that oblong alien classic shape. But if you actually, this is how you trace it. Because the shell is too big. If you didn't want to use such a big shell and cut away at it, you can actually use these circles that come in craft stores. They're for ornaments, Christmas tree ornaments. They come in several different sizes, and you can just lay them flat right on there, and that would give it also an alien eye type. This is how I drew it on, taped it to the inside, and used a marker and just cut it with a Dremel tool all the way around. When using a Dremel, use eye protection, as well as just be in a well-ventilated area, because when the plastic melts, it gives off fumes because it's plastic, and that's something you don't want to breathe in. So you might even want to wear a gas mask or some sort of mouth apparatus, as well as eye protection, and carefully go around the outside. I went on the outside-ish, roughly, of the red, because you can always sand it. You're going to have to sand it probably, and get a smooth finish. Now we are going to be putting the liquid latex on top of this sculpture. If you have the ability to mold, I would do it. I don't, so I'm going to be doing a one-time mold by literally painting liquid latex directly on top of this clay sculpture. I would like to do a mold, and maybe one day I'll end up doing a cold cast type mold, but right now I'm unable to. When putting these eyes on, we are going to be attaching them directly on with the latex, so then the latex will literally hold it in place, and then we can pop them out later and like make them look tinted and glue them back into place. When putting your latex on, you want to start off on a thin coat, and you can get thicker as you go along, because if it's not thick enough, the latex will rip. But we are just going to be focusing on covering every part, every piece in smooth layers, so we get a smooth, clean finish. We are also wearing masks. I would wear a mask as well as be in a well-ventilated area, because liquid latex also does give off fumes, and you're going to want to protect yourself from that. We're using the heat gun on a low setting to dry the latex, and as you can also see, it dries clear, so we are going to have to actually color this. We will explain the way we did it later, and then also talk about an alternative way of painting. This is the coloring process that I mentioned earlier. What we ended up using was using food dye from like Walmart. We did like 17 drops of yellow and a couple drops of green and red to make this like weird mustard color. What I mentioned earlier, what I actually would do is just go to Home Depot and get latex paint, latex house paint samples for $5 to $8, which is more expensive than food dye, which is a couple bucks, depends on how much packs of food dye you get. But with latex house paint, you can get the exact color without struggling to remake the color later on. And trust me, you're going to want to do that, because unless you're painting the entire thing in one sitting, and even if you paint the entire thing in one sitting, you're going to run out of dye, and then you have to put more drops in, and it's hard to match the color. So there are a few spots on the final product that have a bit of color discoloration, but that's fine because it's like, it works for what we're going for. But it could have been a lot smoother in the process and a lot more less time consuming. So there's that to consider. Also, the eyes are glued in place. We did this by holding them where we wanted them and started painting latex around that socket, so we can create the grip that is needed for them to be glued in later on. Before we peel off the mask, we are actually going to put a sealer that we bought online. It's just a latex sealer that is like a clear coat, but for latex. It's optional, but it also does give it a gloss color, which makes it look more slimy and we'll also seal it from water and whatnot. Because this was food dye, I believe because it was food dye, the gloves, which I'll go over, did come off of my pants a little bit because we were out in the rain when we were filming. I'm not sure if that's because it was food dye or if there was not enough sealer on them, but just keep that in mind. When peeling off the mask, keep baby powder handy because baby powder helps latex not stick to itself. So you're going to want to coat baby powder right above the area you're about to fold. You're going to want to carefully do this because if you rip it off, there's a chance that the stress could rip the mask itself. Once it's all cut out, I cut away the excess around the eyes and I actually popped them out. To tint them, what I did was used window tint or car window tint and I just spray painted them. There are other ways to tint plastic, but they didn't seem to work for me. I'm not sure if I did them right. I tried dyeing it with just dye. That cracked right off. Just thought I'd let you know that window tint from Walmart worked best. You don't want to put on too much. You want to put on just enough that you can't see on the inside, but you can see outside. To make this alien glove, what I did was take a latex pack of gloves from Walmart, those thicker cleaning ones, not the thin ones that you throw away after every use. I covered it with latex, very similarly to how I covered the clay sculpture. To get that four-finger effect, I used paper towels and wrapped them around after every layer to combine them into one finger. And I did this for both hands, and I painted them the exact same way. This mask that I had built is actually made out of a red Solo Cup top. Solo Cups come in different designs, you can choose whatever one you want. This middle part was actually made out of a sifter from the dollar store. I cut off all the other edges and glued it in place. And this tube is actually a CPAP machine tube that I glued into place wherever I needed it. Why I made a mask is because you have to be very careful when you're putting the mask on itself, like the mask itself on, because it is very hard to breathe. And you need to make sure that you have breathing holes. And the mouth wasn't big enough for that, and I was actually choking myself. So I cut a hole bigger than my mouth so I can actually breathe, and then I put this mask on over top as a means of practicality. The sides that go around my cheeks is actually elastic, and the back is a piece of foam that supports on my neck. There is a string that goes down my shoulder right here, and that is to a bag that I had gotten at Goodwill that looks alien-ish, and the pipe actually connects to the same bag, and it gives it a sort of story reference. Maybe like he's breathing out of some sort of tube for survival on Earth or something. The black fabric was stitched on as an illusion to hide the human details and make this shirt look like an actual alien shirt. This shirt and pants set was bought at Goodwill, and I bought the white shirt because it had this nice paneling on the front and made it look alien, and the white pants were used with a combination of black shoes, and like the rest of the costume fits well together. It makes it look like a uniform of sorts. Alright everyone, that is the full costume and how we made it. I will link the film down below if you have not seen it yet. Please leave a like if you enjoyed, comment down below what you thought, and subscribe for more content. See you in the next video.